Okay, this is our last method of solving quadratic equations. The good news is it'll work for everything. Unlike factoring, where, sometimes you can't find numbers that will multiply to your C that add to your B. Um, Square rooting only works when you are missing that X term in the middle. So this will work for all cases. However, it's kind of super annoying. So our quadratic equations have to be in the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. If we don't have the 0 on the one side, we do need to move things around. But the a is the coefficient of the x squared, the b is the coefficient of the x, and the c is that constant. So the quadratic formula is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So we're going to just kind of jump in and do some examples because that's the best way to go through this. The first one, I'm really going to write out where the numbers go. As you start to do this in practice, you can kind of just start squaring your b right away instead of writing it out. But I'm going to really write out the numbers for this one. So for our first one, we have a equal to -2, b equal to 12, and c equal to -5. So we're going to have x equals negative b. So in this case, -12 plus or minus the square root, I'm going to do a pretty big square root, of b squared. So I'm going to write out 12 squared minus 4 times -2 times -5, 4ac. And that is all over 2a, so 2 times -2. And now we can start simplifying things a little bit here. So x equals -12 plus or minus the square root. So 12 squared is 144. And then whenever you're evaluating that 4ac, you have to be very careful with your signs. So -2 times -5 would be a +10, and 4 times 10 is 40. Another way to think about it is there's 3 negatives here, so we know it's still going to be a -40. And that's going to be over -4. So x equals -12 plus or minus the square root of 104 divided by -4. And now is when you would have to read directions, see if you need to simplify it or if it's asking you to just evaluate it and round. So if we were simplifying in this case, I'm going to jump up here. Root 104 would be root 4 times root 26. Okay, 4 times 26 is 104. I like that I chose 4 because it's a perfect square. I can evaluate that. And 26 does not have any other perfect squares that goes into it, so 26 would be simplified. So this is going to be 2 root 26. So going back here, you have x equals -12 plus or minus that 2 root 26 over -4. But we can actually simplify this further because that numerator is really just created by joining these two things subtracted together. And both of those things are being divided by this -4. So even though -4 goes into -12 evenly, and it doesn't go into 2 evenly, we can still kind of take out 2 from everything to simplify things further. So we are going to have x equals, so divide this by 2, -6 plus or minus. The 2 divided by 2 is just 1, so we don't need to write 1 root 26. We're just going to write root 26 over, and simplify this by 2, -2. So this is one way of writing our answer. And if the directions had said to actually evaluate it, maybe rounded to the nearest hundredth, I'll show you how to do that on the Google calculator. So I have my calculator here. So what is actually happening here is we have this stuff in the numerator and we want to divide all of that by -2. So you have to be very careful with how we type this in. So the easiest thing to do is to start typing your numerator in parentheses. So we're going to have, I forgot my numbers already, -6. We're going to do it the first time with the plus. So plus root 26. Now notice that when I type that, you see these two parentheses appear. They're actually not there yet. It's suggesting that we use those. So I'm going to type the first one, which you see closes the number inside of the square root. I need to type the other one to kind of close that whole numerator. So we have -6 plus root 26, that whole thing, and now I can divide it by -2. So that is my first answer, and we're going to round it to the nearest hundredth, so we'll say 0.45. And now we're going to do the same thing, but with the minus sign instead. I wonder if I could just get that back. No, okay. Okay, so I hit the little timer thing here, and it pulled this up again for me. And now I think I can go in, maybe, no. Okay, I thought I'd be able to change it. So I'll just type it. So -6 minus root 26, close the square root, close the numerator, and then divide that by -2. So at the other end of things, we have 5.55 as our answer. So once again, we had our simplified version and we had our evaluated rounded version. Okay, in our next example, we do not have it equal to 0. So we're going to subtract 4x from both sides to move it over, which gives us x squared minus 4x minus 7 equals 0. So now we have a equal to, remember there's an invisible 1 there, so a equals 1, b equals -4, and c equals -7. So x equals -b. So -4 actually just means a +4, plus or minus the square root. This is where I'm going to start kind of just doing stuff here. So b squared, that'll be -4 times -4, which is 16, minus 4 times 1 times -7, all over 2a. So 2 times 1 is just 2. Keep going. X equals 4 plus or minus square root of 16. And then this is 4 times 7, 28, with 2 negatives. So we'd be adding 28 over 2, which is x equals 4 plus or minus the square root. That would be 44. Yes. Over 2. So root 44 we can definitely simplify. So root 44 simplifies into root 4 times root 11. So that'll be 2 root 11. So we have x equals 4 plus or minus 2 root 11 over 2. And now we can simplify this. Divide 4, the 2, and the 2 by 2. So we get x equals 2 plus or minus root 11, and technically over 1, so it would just be that. And if we wanted to evaluate that, we would say 2 plus root 11 is 5.32. And then 2 minus root 11 is -1.32. Okay, let's try a couple more. Oops, too far. Okay, here we have a equal to 2, b equal to 4, and c equal to -8. So we have x equal -b, which is -4, plus or minus square root of b squared, so 16 minus 4 times 2 times negative 8 all over 2a, which is 4. X equals negative 4 plus or minus 16. This over here will be 4 times 2 is 8 times 8 is 64. Negative times negative is a positive, so positive 64 over 4. We get x equals negative 4 plus or minus root 80 over 4. Root 80 is root 16 times root 5, which is 4 root 5. If you had tried 4, that's fine, but you would have had to keep going. So this is fully simplified. So x equals negative 4 plus or minus 4 root 5 over 4. We can divide all that stuff by 4. So x equals negative 1 plus or minus root 5. You could always plug it in and evaluate it also, but for now, let's just leave it in the simplified version. So now just to show you, if you had noticed in this example, we could have actually divided everything by 2 to start out with, and it will actually give us the same thing. So our next equation is actually the same exact thing, just if we had divided everything by 2. I just wanted to show you that it would work out the same. So if you do have a common factor, you can divide everything out first. So let's try here. We have a equal to 1, b equal to 2, c equal to negative 4. So x equals negative b, which is negative 2, plus or minus b squared, which is 4, minus 4 times 1 times negative 4, all over 2a, which is just 2. So x equals negative 2 plus or minus root 4 plus 16 over 2. So x equals negative 2 plus or minus root 20 over 2. For root 20, I could pull out root 4 times root 5, which is 2 root 5. So it becomes x equals negative 2. I don't know why I won't draw my negative. Plus or minus 2 root 5 over 2. Divide all your 2's out. And we still end up with x equals negative 1 plus or minus root 5. So it works out the same. Our numbers are a little bit smaller to work with. So if you notice you can divide something out, feel free to do so. It will still give you the same answer. The last piece for today is about the discriminant. Okay, the discriminant is just the part under the square root. And how that helps you is it tells you how many solutions there are. So let's say a question just asks how many solutions to the equation are there. You don't have to go through the whole quadratic formula. You can just look at the discriminant and use that to help you figure this out. So for each of these equations, they're all set equal to 0 to start with, so that's good. We're just going to look at the discriminant to say how many solutions there are, not what the solutions actually are. So for the first one, sorry. Well, first I should write down that the discriminant is b squared minus 4ac. That's that piece that is under the square root. So that's what we're going to be looking at for each of these. So a is 1, b is negative 4, c is 3. So the discriminant is b squared minus 4ac, so 16 minus 4 times 1 times 3, which is 16 minus 12, which is 4. So the discriminant is 4. I guess I shouldn't circle it because that's not our final answer. The discriminant is 4, okay? And because it's a positive number, that means that there's going to be 2 real solutions, because we would have positive or negative that number in the square root, which would give us 2 answers. For the next one, Our A is 1, our B is 4, and our C is -4. So our discriminant would be b squared, so 16, minus 4 times 1 times -4. And this one, I can tell you this was supposed to be a plus. So let's change that. Okay, because what I really wanted to happen here is this is a plus. So this ends up being 16 minus 16, which is 0. So when your discriminant is 0, that means that there's going to be only one solution. Because you can't take a positive or negative 0, it's going to give you the same thing. So my apologies. The question itself was wrong. It did not fit the purpose of what I wanted it to do. The question really should have been a +4 there, which would have made the C 4, which now turns our discriminant into 0, which means there was one solution. And lastly, we have A equal to 1, B equal to -4, and C equal to 5. So B squared would be 16 minus 4 times 1 times 5. We get 16 minus 20, which is -4. If you get a negative number, keep in mind this number is on the inside of the square root. When you get a negative number as your discriminant, that means there are no real solutions. There's no solution to that equation because you can't take the square root of a negative. So a positive discriminant is 2 real solutions. 0 as your discriminant means that there's one solution, and a negative number as your discriminant means that there is no solution.